Hi everyone! The purpose of this video is to discuss how to use Padlet as a teacher or a school director. So Padlet is an interactive tool that can be used synchronously while students are in class together or asynchronously while students are on their own time. It really depends on what the purpose is and the layout that you choose. So to begin with, of course, you want to go to Padlet.com. If you already have an account, you can go ahead and click Login. If you don't, you click the pink button to sign up for free. The free level of Padlet gives you access to all of Padlet's features. The only difference is you can only have 3 active Padlets at a time, which can be really limiting if this is something you're going to use across your school. I recommend getting a paid account for the school to use. Teachers can use free accounts, and then any Padlet that they make that they want to keep for a longer time, you as the administrator can copy over into your paid account. And then you can even add the teacher as an administrator so he or she can keep changing it and have access to it. We'll get to that feature a little bit later. But you want to go ahead and either sign up for an account or log in. Now I should note that your username with which you register for Padlet becomes part of every Padlet's URL. So you want to choose something that represents your entire organization rather than your personal name. So we're going to go ahead and log in, and that brings up my dashboard, which has every single Padlet that I have ever created that I still have as active. You can archive Padlets that you're not using anymore, but when you have a paid account, that's really not necessary. So this gives you 3 different options. You can make a new Padlet, which we'll do in a moment. You can join a Padlet, which is one of the ways that you can direct users to a Padlet that you're using for your class. And then it also has a gallery, where there's a collection of Padlets that have been made by different users across the country that have made those Padlets public. Sometimes you can find useful things here, if not necessarily in content, then in structure, or you can use the search bar, and it's always possible you'll find something that can be of use. As I said, for now, we're going to go ahead and make a new Padlet. Now there are 8 different layout options, as you can see, and they're really used for very different purposes. One of the more obvious ones is the map, where you can create a map of pretty much anywhere in the world and ask users to post at different locations in the world. So an example, of course, is to ask people to drop posts where their ancestors come from, and that can lead to some very interesting discussions. There's also a timeline if your students are working on a certain point in history that different users can add to. And then the back channel is another pretty obvious use where it kind of creates like a chat box where students can talk back and forth and have conversations. For today, we're going to use Canvas, which is the Padlet with the loosest structure, but you can put posts pretty much anywhere on the screen. So I'm going to select that, and Padlet is going to randomly generate the way my Padlet looks and its title, description, and URL. So let's say that I am making this Padlet for an assignment about creating a sukkah at home. Since a lot of students can't come and visit the sukkah at the temple, let's say that we are asking them to build a sukkah at home out of any kind of creative materials. We're not asking them to bring in palm fronds. They can create it out of anything they want. So I'm going to change my Padlet's title to Sukkah at Home. I'm going to change its description to Show Us Your Space. Although, of course, you can make it anything you want. Then, of course, you can add an icon, which goes up in the top left corner. Padlet has a lot of them built in, emoticons and animal faces, and pretty much every emoji that you can think of. It has already a built-in Jewish star, so that's what I'm going to use for today, although you can also add your own icon as well. So then, it's important to note that Padlet also randomly generates the Padlet's URL. So you can see Temple Menorah, my username is here, but then there's a random string of letters and numbers. I find that it's really important to personalize that for every Padlet that I make because it makes them easier to share. I'm going to call it Sukkah at Home. And then I can adjust the wallpaper. Obviously, conversation hearts, not a great background for this kind of a purpose. Padlet has a lot of built-in colors, gradients, textures, and pictures. You can also add your own wallpaper. You can upload something from your hard drive. You can paste a URL to a photo you found online, an image you found online. You can search images that other people have uploaded. But for this purpose, we're going to go simple, and we're going to choose a nice green. There we go, and that adjusts the background of my Padlet. Now, your Modify menu is still open. You're going to want to select your posting options. Do you want the posts that people put up to be attributed to the author name? I like to put that on. Do you want to allow posters to leave comments on other people's posts? I like to leave that off. And then do you want to allow for reactions? You can have likes or thumbs up, thumbs down, stars, or anything like that. For kids, I tend to, if I'm going to use anything, I just use likes, because that way nobody's feelings get hurt. And then you can determine whether every single post on your Padlet requires your approval or whether they can be posted automatically, and you can choose to filter out profanity. And I always like to click that just in case. Okay, so then you're going to click Next, and then your Padlet is all set and you can start posting anywhere. Now, before we talk about how to post things on a Padlet, I want to go over the different buttons that are available to you. So up here in your right-hand corner, you can like a Padlet. Liking your own Padlet doesn't do you a lot of good, but if you're looking at somebody else's Padlet, you might want to come back to it later. If you click the little heart, it'll save it for you in your dashboard. Let's imagine that you found somebody else's Padlet and you really, really like it. If you click the Remake button, Padlet will copy that Padlet over into your dashboard, and then you can adjust it for your own purposes. This right here, we'll come back to Share in a minute. This right here is your Modify menu that we already saw. And then you have the 3 buttons that means More, which will bring up more invite options, a chance to print it. You can change the format if you want to go to a different layout. You can clear all posts if you need to clear everything that someone has posted on the Padlet, or a lot of other things. So we're going to come back to this later to talk about how to invite people and things like that. But for now, let's talk about how to post on a Padlet. So there is a pink Add button, but on most Padlets, you can click anywhere on the Padlet to post something. So I'm just going to click in a random place, and that's going to bring up the posting menu. Now, Padlet is remarkable in that it has pretty much everything built in. So let's imagine that I'm a user, and I'm going to say a picture of my sukkah, okay, and then say I built this for me and my brother. All right, so then I have the option of uploading something from my hard drive. I can link to a picture that is somewhere else on the internet. I can search for a picture. I can use my webcam to take a photograph, or I can click, again, the More button and get even more options. So we already talked about these, but then I can record video from my webcam. I can record audio from my phone. I can record my entire screen. I can bring up a draw function where I can doodle right on my computer. I can add a location, or I can link to another Padlet. So it really has pretty much everything anybody could need. Now, of course, the purpose of this assignment is for students to post a picture of something that they've built, but for another assignment when they would have to find a picture that represents how they're feeling. For example, I can actually use this search function. I don't have to go outside, and I can find a picture of pretty much anything I need. So you can see it took the title of my post and put it in the search button and the search bar, and it brought up a picture of a sukkah. Okay, but you can find images, videos, GIFs, audio, or just regular websites for pretty much anything you want. So let's imagine that this Padlet was meant to, students were supposed to post how they are feeling, and I'm feeling confused. I can do a search for that as well, and it gives me all of those same options, which is really, really nice. And then you can move this pretty much anywhere you want on your Padlet. If you move it down, then your Padlet will just get longer, which is nice because that way you never run out of space. So that's how you add a post. Now, when you want to share it, if you're doing this synchronously, meaning in real time, do you want to give students the URL? Or you can actually add them if they are registered users of Padlet, if they already have Padlet accounts. And this is how you would do that. You go here to your Invite People, and then you would search them by name. So let's imagine that I'm adding somebody that I already know. So here is my senior rabbi. I'm using her as an example, and then you can give the different people you've invited to your Padlet different permissions for what they can do on your Padlet. Do you want them just to be able to write, meaning they can add a post? Do you want them just to be able to read, meaning they can only view what's posted there? Do you want them to be able to edit, meaning they can add posts? Or do you want to give them all of the same permissions that you have? So that's if I was handing this Padlet off to a teacher, then I would want to add them as an administrator. And that's pretty important, a very nice thing to be able to use. So you can do a few different things when you want to share this with your students. You can give them the URL directly. You can add them all one by one if they all have Padlet accounts, or you can give them the Padlet URL, ask them to sign into Padlet independently, and then they would click that yellow Join a Padlet button. And then they'll be able to work on this. They'll be able to work on this independently, and you'll see all of their posts pop up. So if I was using this over Zoom, then I would share my screen, and that way all of the posts that people are adding will pop up and they can all see them together. If I'm using it asynchronously, then I would have to come back and revisit it or send students to revisit it to comment on or like or interact with each other's posts. So that is how you create a pretty generic Padlet.